Today's morning coffee vinyl side. Mac Wiseman, Great Folk Ballads 1959. This 1960 UK pressing of Mac Wiseman's 1959 album Great Folk Ballads is less a folk album than it is a country album. And this is notable because it acknowledges that there has long been a struggle between country music and folk music in American music circles as to which one begat the other and which one represents the true music of America. The question is in some ways ridiculous, and we couldn't begin to answer it here. But if you want the crib notes, I'll hook you up. Folk music begat country music. Just take my word for it. In this album's context, country music is an aesthetic, a branch off the folk tree. Now, before I get hate, just know that these posts and videos are short. We can only go so deep into a topic or defend a statement for so long before risking getting bogged down in its abstractions. And I'm still dealing with Barbra Streisand fans who were affronted by my suggestion that a young Barbra didn't have the same emotional depth on her very first album as she did later as she developed into her artistry. Now, I can't fight the good fight on two fronts, my friends, so please show some mercy. Of course, country and Western music did evolve into its own genre and begat its own subgenres, but it budded off the folk tree. Mac Wiseman was the longest and last living founding member of the Country Music Association. Serving as its first secretary, Wiseman espoused the founding principle and motivation behind the CMA: to save the popularity of country music from rock and roll. Now let that sink in. I bet you never thought it was so explicit. To save the popularity of country music from rock and roll. Now, I'm not quite sure what to make of this myself. I'm going to need a little bit of a think. But I do know that many country music artists were equally at home playing rockabilly and Texas blues, so the mission statement seems to suggest something else needed protecting from rock and roll's popularity. Now, not to knock old Mac down, he started out as a bluegrass musician, so he didn't manifest as a country music artist overnight. But the songs on this album really have been stripped clean of anything but the country aesthetic. They've been distilled in a way I'm not quite ready to try and articulate, but I note that I walk away from the listening experience feeling rather lonely, and I wonder if loneliness lies at the heart of the country music aesthetic. It might. Now, Mac himself wasn't lonely, receiving awards and accolades for his musical pursuits and governance his whole life. Particularly notable was his return to bluegrass in the mid-'80s, and his continued participation in recording right up until his death at the age of 93 in 2019.